Hi, welcome back to Art of Awakening. This is Ona, and there's some interesting things happening about now. I'm recording this on Earth Day, April 22nd in 2020, and so of course we're moving. We're in the middle of this pandemic, and we're moving into like there's this huge shift happening on the planet. But this is going to be true anytime that there's like a shift happening, the end of a cycle, and that can be different for different groups of people. So what's been happening lately is there's sort of, you may have been aware of a certain number of disturbances. There's a lot of kind of anxiety in the collective field, and I keep hearing stories. Viewers, subscribers are reaching out to me, clients. I'm hearing from other light workers, experiencing some of it myself. Exhaustion or dreams, a lot of maybe even disturbing dreams or intense dreams during sleep. Sometimes you wake up feeling exhausted and it feels like you've been doing battle or something all night. There have been emotional disturbances. My dog, this is how it's shaping up for me. My dog's having all these anxiety attacks, and partly it's because of some changes happening in the household, but it's pretty over the top. There's somebody reached out to me and said that they had bed bugs, and that these were cropping up just as this individual felt like they were kind of actually had been overcoming a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden there's these bed bugs, right? And so they reached out wanting to know kind of like if I had any insight on what these were all about. So what I'm feeling is, and the message that I'm getting is that this kind of stuff is going to happen, okay, and especially at the end of, like, we're in the end of this huge cycle, right? And starting up another new cycle. And of course there's different soul groups here. So for some of us, there's a bunch of souls just starting this awakening process, and that's going to really, that is starting to hit the mass collective, as we're going to see more and more people coming on board and starting to wake up, right? So there's this huge wave that we're just about to see starting to happen, and then there's a bunch of souls who have just come through a humongous kind of trial by fire of years, decades of purging, and this a very difficult kind of awakening process. There's others that are sort of like newly awakened and coming in with almost kind of fully developed spiritual awareness and spiritual gifts. So a lot of stuff happening, a lot of activity, but what I'm seeing for especially those of us I'm speaking to now who have been really working through a lot of stuff and have been feeling like, oh, I'm finally starting to getting the traction, and really feeling like I'm getting there, and all of a sudden this stuff comes up and it's challenging, right? So what I'm seeing it as a flushing up of all these old patterns, the echoes of these old energies that we've been purging, and it's just like sweeping the corners and just getting out the dregs, right? And I'm also being told this is a call to mastery, okay? That you're not regressing. Don't feel like you're regressing if you're experiencing these things, okay? So it's like, first of all, it's like a just like pulling out the last. I mean, we're always going to be on the journey, right? But from this cycle, it's like the last dregs of it. And think of it as the final exam, right? It's a lot of it's lessons we've already learned. They're coming up again. And so we can start, just learn them at a deeper level and really master those lessons, because I've got this very strong feeling like this, the solstice season, the eclipse season coming up in June in the summertime is really going to usher in another intense wave of ascension. And so we're wanting to clean all this stuff out of us. That's a big reason why we've got this shutdown happening, right? The Earth herself is cleansing, and I think it's really appropriate on Earth Day. My partner and I were walking out this morning, and we were looking out and actually last night as well, commenting how clear the air is. And we live in a really pristine area in northern Michigan, but even here you can see that it's way clearer. Like everything looks more clear. And so that's what's happening within ourselves too. Well, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable still, but just that this is just the last kind of clearing out before the next new cycle. And in terms of a call to mastery, a lot of us who have been doing the work and have gotten to a certain point are really going to be called into service in a big, big, big way. So if you've been kind of struggling to figure out your purpose, or to bring your gifts into play, into maybe you're thinking about starting a business with your whatever your passion is, whatever, this is really the time to kind of a lot of us are really being pushed into that direction or encouraged in that direction. So if you're feeling like you want to take the next step towards really following your passions, great, listen to Spirit, because you will be given everything. You will be given everything you need, as long as you hold that image in your mind, hold that desire of what you want, and don't let yourself get distracted, right? So that's part of this. Okay, so, and that is relating to this next thing that I want to relay, because this is super, super important. It's something I've been feeling anyway, but then a client really kind of brought it to my attention. That somebody he follows have been talking about it, and I really felt like, yeah, this is something that really ought to be shared, because it's a really positive thing, right? Call it the armor of God, and this is this concept of you are protected, right? If you have that connection with Source, if you've been seeing the synchronicities, if you've been having the magical things happen, if you're feeling called to a purpose, if you have been experiencing your spiritual gifts coming forward, you are part of that this whole process and this whole team that is helping to uplift the earth, right? And so each of us has this divine protection around us as we've developed these gifts, as we've developed these energies. It kind of brings this protection around us. And so there's different ways that you can visualize this. Now, sometimes you can feel, or some people can actually see the protection around people like an aura, right? You can feel if a person has that protection, but you can, like, even if you can't see or feel it, you can start visualizing it, right? So you can visualize it around yourself. That helps to strengthen it. So one way to visualize it is to just imagine yourself wearing armor, like divine angelic armor. Okay, so think of Archangel Michael or whatever the other armor-clad angels. We've got that too. And this is sort of a visualization that really maybe comes from more of the upper chakras, and more the angelic side, right? On the spirit animal, the totem side, you can call on some of these animals that have that kind of protective capacity. One of them would be a dragon, okay, thinking of the scales and even the protective flame, but that kind of protective thing. Turtle's another one, and I'm wearing these sea turtle earrings. The sea turtle is a wonderful symbol for right now, because it's got that protective shell. Nothing eats, as far as I know, except for humans, nothing eats a mature sea turtle. Okay, so once you've, and a lot of us have been working towards mastery, right? But we've gotten that point where we're, our auras are big enough, our confidence is high enough, right? That we're in that kind of mature state. That mature sea turtle, it kind of just floats in bliss, right? It's supremely protected, and that's what we're being asked to do, is to know that we are protected and that we can move forward in the bliss field, right? The bliss state. Bear or anything else that's shaggy, even a sheep or something like that, would be another one to consider that protection around you. And another one is animals that surround as a protective device, like I think I've mentioned in previous videos, a swarm of bees surrounding their queen. You can imagine yourself as the queen bee, being just surrounded by all these bees, or maybe the buffalo surrounding in a ring their young. That kind of activity, you can call them those animals as well. to help to strengthen and bring in this armor of God that we have, if you're feeling like you need a little extra protection. And then the third way to visualize this is the symbol, the Vesica Piscis. Okay, this is the two circles with where they intersect in the middle. Right where they intersect, there's this oval shape, right? And that's called the Vesica Piscis. The shape in the middle is super a powerful kind of thing, right? In medieval paintings, a lot of times they would show a lot of the archangels or Jesus or Mother Mary inside, or anybody that was considered holy, they would often show inside this Vesica Piscis. And so the symbol actually represents, amongst other things, a lot of things, but the masculine and feminine coming together, and there's that union between the two that creates, right? So this is the yoni, it's a sacred womb, right? And it's a sacred womb space. And it's also a protective device, and this is super important because it's connected with that divine feminine, and it's also a protective shield that some shields will enclose, right? This one encloses to protect, but it also allows for expansion. It's a birthing thing, right? So it allows for continued growth and expansion. So it's super powerful. You get both the protection and the expansion with this archetype, with this symbol. So that's a really powerful thing that you can bring around you. You could even maybe paint your self-portrait or something with the Vesica Piscis around you. That kind of thing can be really powerful just to use to assist with this whole process. Okay, so I actually took notes on this because there was so much that was coming through this morning. And then the last thing I wanted to bring about in terms of this whole dynamic of being called into mastery, we're thrown off the dregs. We are, we've got that protection around us. But the last thing that I wanted to bring forward right now is the importance of grounding, because what's happening is, again, I'm coming back to this third eye, right? We're visualizing a bright future, okay? And that's the mode by which we're all assisting in raising the consciousness on the earth and with this ascension process. So it's really important that we focus, okay? So the focus goes hand in hand with grounding, because if you're to utilize these upper chakras, if we're not grounded, then we end up floating around. We have all these visions, we've got all this great intentions, but nothing ever gets traction, nothing happens, right? Or we can get kind of thrown off and waylaid, I don't know, waylaid, but kind of thrown into illusion, right? Or thrown off course because we're not grounded, we're not anchored, okay? So this is a twofold thing. The focus and the grounding, okay? And what this keeps saying is, like, for light warriors, the sword is the focus, right? So it's no longer do we have to be fighting against things. We're not fighting anymore, okay? So the thing that we're needing to overcome is just those dregs of stuff within ourselves, right? The false beliefs, the fear, all that stuff. And the way to get away from it, you don't focus on it because that's fighting it. It's what we put our attention on strengthens it, right? So the idea is to take your attention, so it's like fighting it by non-fighting, by taking your attention away from it and focusing your attention on what it is that we desire, what it is that we want to see, like a healed earth, right? A healed body, or beauty in the world, right? Making your music, dancing your dance, painting your pictures, of beauty and of connectedness, right? The connectedness between all that stuff. That's what we need to focus on. And you'll have your personal visions, and we'll also have a collective vision of this healed earth or happy humanity, however you want to put it. All right, so where this comes in, I'm getting this image of the sword of light, and with the kind of the hilt, the pommel, that power point of the sword being right there in the third eye, and that sort of light coming right down through the chakras, with a real kind of like a PowerPoint right here and right down to the core of the earth, right? Anchoring to the earth with this sort of light. So that's something that you can just visualize. I used it this morning when my dog was having anxiety attacks, and it was 4 times when I went in and because I was lying in bed and I could hear her pacing around. Right, she'd come on the bed, she'd be like panting. Ugh. So I'd focus on just really kind of tune into her, bring that focus to there, and then just visualize that sort of light going through, and at the same time holding that protection around her, just like a thunder shirt that you put on the animals, right? And holding that energy around her, and every time she would settle down. So this is really super powerful. I've been trying it out. So I guess, and then one last thing that I did want to mention also is this anchoring. It's amplified because we're anchoring not only ourselves, but also the whole collective of humanity. And that's why it's so important that we light workers, that a lot of us that are awakened, if you've already awakened, you're kind of the advanced guard, and you're here to help anchor this energy in. Okay, the anchoring is so important. That connection with Mother Earth, I cannot emphasize how important that is, because when the collective starts to awaken, it's going to be like, whew. So just a heads up, we can expect these disturbances that I mentioned at the beginning. We may be seeing some pretty big waves of those. So this is like saying, don't fear, just anchor, right? Really concentrate on focusing on, not on the disturbances, but focusing on the stuff we want to see, anchoring it in, because we're grounding that light right in. And think of a single tree. If it's kind of anchored in, if it's sitting in the middle of a blank field and all by itself, and the windstorm comes, it's likely to blow down, right? But when you have a whole forest of trees and they're all anchoring in, right, and the wind comes and it hits all these trees, then the strength of that wind, the power of that wind is dissipated. And so you will have far fewer, if any, trees toppling over from this windstorm, right? If you've got the whole forest versus one tree. So consider, as you're doing your anchoring work, whatever disturbances you're dealing with, keep in mind that you have a multitude of a soul tribe around you. So in this time of isolation right now, in this pandemic, recognize that it may feel isolating, but there's a whole soul tribe. So constantly think about connecting those interconnections that we have, all of us, right? And even if you're not seeing or hearing them physically, just knowing that they're there, that's going to strengthen, right? Because we're all doing this collectively together, and that old saying, united we stand, divided we fall, it holds true for this as well. So just like trees in a forest, that's what we're doing right now. All right, so thank you so much for all that you are doing to assist in this collective awakening. If you've gotten value out of this video, please do pay it forward, okay? I want to see ripples of light. I think all of us can start thinking in terms of paying it forward, and also remembering that we don't have to do it all ourselves, okay? We just do our little part. As we pay it forward, more comes to us, right? So it's a give and receive. So opening that receiving channel. You deserve to receive what you need. You're going to be given exactly what you need to step into your higher purpose right now, and utilize your mastery. But it's so important to open and be willing to receive that. With that in mind, I am offering a free mini session if you book it through the end of this month, and this is not a sales pitch, it's just an actual free mini session. All I ask is that you pay it forward, so I will leave the link to that below. All right, thanks so much for watching. You have a great day, and we'll catch you again soon.